for freshers who don't know anything about the conflict in Cameroon, do you want to just maybe explain it briefly, what's going on in Cameroon at the moment?
Yeah, so basically the marginalization of Anglophones in Cameroon is the main problem that's going on right now. And it's kind of rooted in colonialization of Cameroon by Britain and France, which was in 1916, where they divided the country into two and imposed their own system into the two states, so legally and just culturally, socially. And the French-speaking territory got their independence first in 1960, and that left the Anglophones in the British territory to join the independent French state the year after. They didn't really have much choice about it, and since then the Anglophones, since they're the minority and they hold minimal government positions, they've been kind of pushed out to the outskirts of any kind of decision making done in Cameroon, and they've been marginalized and targeted by the Francophone majority since then. And the kind of main conflict started because the French-speaking government sent French magistrates who's trained in the civil law system to preside over English common law courts in 2016, which is a very unfair to the Anglophone-speaking regions and the people who are being tried under English common law, but by French magistrates who don't practice that law at all. And so when the lawyers took to the streets and started protesting, the Cameroonian government responded with very violent military responses. And since then, there's been a growing split between the Francophone regions and Anglophone rebels who identify as the Ambazonians, who want to create a separate state for Anglophone Cameroonians where they will be safe and not marginalized by their society. So yeah, that's the short version of what's going on in Cameroon.
Okay, and so what are you as a society doing to, what are you doing to make a difference?
Yeah, so we noticed that the kind of atrocities and human rights violations going on in Cameroon aren't reported by international media, and the Western government kind of keeps silent on these proven state-sponsored killings of Anglophone Cameroonians. And although like as a student society and like one university can't do too much, I think it's a start to try and start a conversation about kind of bringing awareness to kind of human rights issues that are going around the world. And Cameroon, I think, is one of the most underreported in the world, so we should start talking about it more. I think, yeah, the Norwegian Refugee Council judges Cameroon and the conflict going on in Cameroon as the most neglected displacement crisis in the world. So it is a serious issue, and just because no one's talking about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. So I think it's a start to just try and raise awareness amongst people around you, and then hopefully it grows into something bigger.
Yeah, so once if you are able to raise sufficient levels of student awareness, what can students do? So are there maybe organizations that they can kind of donate to or volunteer with who are making a difference in Cameroon? Or once they're aware of it, what should students who want to do more do?
So for now, that isn't, as we discussed, there isn't too much that you can do financially, because any money that is sent to Cameroon would kind of go through the Cameroonian government and would be state controlled. So I think it's more important to raise awareness and try and pressure Western governments to start addressing the things going on in Cameroon and trying to sanction the Cameroonian government itself. Because technically right now they're claiming that they're at a ceasefire, but it's not really advantageous to Anglophone Cameroonians, because they're still oppressed, they're still marginalized, they're still being attacked. And it's important that the Western government start to speak out about this, because they are complicit, not only in having been having had colonialized Cameroon in the past, but also the way that they're profiting off Cameroon. So the US has been actively involved in arming and training the BLI, which is responsible for many of the atrocities committed in the Anglophone regions. There are the various economic interests from these countries, including obviously oil and other natural resources that come out of Cameroon. But yeah, I think the most important thing that students can do is keep spreading the word. And obviously once we start a petition going, because our last one was turned down, keep pressuring governments, your local MPs and people who can make a difference on a bigger scale to try and speak up about this issue. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so it sounds like from what you're saying that we, of all countries and all people, we have responsibility to be aware and do something about this, because obviously a large part of this is the legacy of colonialism. I mean, that sounds like it's a problem of two, imperial powers leaving countries that weren't ready, just leaving a horrible situation for the kind of indigenous people to then deal with. So really, it's our responsibility to do something about it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And especially with the kind of Black Lives Matter movement that's been gaining more ground recently, I think Cameroon should definitely be included in that conversation, because it is kind of a glaring example of what systemic racism and colonialism and how it's affected not like people living in a certain country, but the whole country and people around. So it's not only Cameroon, but the people kind of fleeing to other countries as well. And the whole of Cameroon has been affected by kind of years of systemic racism and colonialism. And that's something that Britain should take responsibility for and try and help in making the situation better.
So do you think that this lack of awareness and reporting of this conflict do you think it's an isolated case of one just kind of slipping through the cracks, or is this symptomatic of just a wide ignorance of what's going on in African countries and in less developed countries, basically non-English speaking countries? Obviously, BLM in America is getting a lot of publicity at the moment, but do you think we neglect the kind of crises that go on in countries like Yemen or in Cameroon?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really easy to focus on issues that are already publicized by the media, which have a certain kind of like social hysteria to it, because it's easy to join in on a movement that's already got a lot of traction and you feel like you're contributing a lot, because change does happen from a lot of people speaking out about certain issues. And obviously, because it is Western media, they focus on the issues that are going on in the West more. But I think I don't think it's slipping through the cracks that Cameroon isn't being reported. I think it's very deliberate, because it's profitable for Western countries to be silent on matters that should be gaining way more attention. And I think if those kind of issues aren't being brought to light by media, like professional media, then it should be the job of other people to look into what's going on, what the legacy of their own countries have been impacting other countries, and see what they can do about it and keep talking and making conversation. Yeah.
So you were telling me earlier about how you started the society. So you're associated with a law research group as part of the uni. Is that right? You want to tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I found out about the conflict in Cameroon through a talk, which is on YouTube. So I watched it on YouTube because I couldn't attend the actual talk, but it was hosted by the Cameroon Conflict Research Group, which is a research group which is part of the Oxford Law faculty. And it's headed by Dr. Roxana Willis and a Cameroonian barrister called Caroline Minka. And they are more focused on the research aspect of Cameroon, why things are happening, what's happening, and trying to kind of analyze the ways that they can resolve issues and help the Cameroon in that way. And I set up the society to focus more on the activism side and kind of social media to spread the word of what the kind of research they're doing. So we have a lot of people on our committee. including researchers and writers and editors. And what we're basically doing is using the information that the people in the research group have come up with, as well as research that people have been coming up with by themselves, to produce infographics, articles, and kind of general information that we can do as succinctly as possible, so we don't lose too much interest, because if it's too long, obviously people don't tend to read to the end, but to make things succinct and interesting enough for people to kind of take part in while they're on Instagram or Facebook, and just kind of keep inundating people's feeds with the things that are going on in Cameroon, hopefully gain attraction in that way. So that's our kind of main goal, is activism.
So for freshers who want to get involved with the society, or who just want to find out more about the conflict, where can they find you on social media?
So they can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all under the same name, Oxford University Cameroon Conflict Society, Student Society. And we also have a nationwide website that we've just set up. It's a bit green, but it does have quite a lot of information on it, which is Students for Cameroon. So all the links are on our Facebook page as well, so you can find all of them through there. And we have a sign-up sheet for our newsletter, which is fortnightly, and it gives, we just update the newsletter every 2 weeks with new information, with new projects that people are doing, and new infographics people have come up with, and keep our subscribers updated through that as well. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds good. I'll follow you on Instagram.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Bye.